You're listening to the Ask Drone U podcast. You ask, we answer your drone questions. Whether you're here to turn your passion into profit or you simply fly for fun, we're a community of learners and teachers who aspire to achieve greatness. We are
Drone U.
All right, Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rob. I'm excited.
I can tell. No, thank you for taking time out of your day. I know that you're a very busy person.
We've been pretty busy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so as you all know, hopefully that's the reason that you're here, is that you're going to learn a little bit about somebody who has been successful with their drone business. Hi, Kona. And you're doing so while working full-time in a regular professional job.
I am. That is correct.
So I don't know, that's pretty intense, but I'm excited to get into it. We're going to do our best to give you some insights into, I don't know, Kevin's progression, his journey as a drone pilot and running his own drone business. I'm fascinated by it, and he is, as we affectionately have now called him, our guinea pig for the new show. I'm super excited to be doing this. Hope that you're excited to be along the journey with us as we interview pilots from around the country and ultimately from around the world. We've got some great guests lined up and in mind to get lined up that we think you'll enjoy a lot. Tons of personality like Kevin here. They've got interesting journeys, and more important than any of that is that we think you can learn a lot from them, which is ultimately our goal here at Drone U, is to help you learn such that you can create your own drone business or drone career. It doesn't have to be your own business. There are a lot of ways to leverage your drone expertise. So let's hop right in and tell us a little bit about yourself. Just sort of general stuff. Who are you? Who is Kevin Lederer?
So I'm Kevin Lederer. About myself, I worked for a national labs for about 23 years. Part of that was doing HVAC, which I also had done 10 years prior to being hired on in a national lab. And then I changed careers and started doing intelligence work.
So I have always, we'll get into drones, but this is pretty interesting. We've never talked about this, but I've always thought of, okay, Kevin, I knew you were HVAC before counterintelligence. How were you like sneaking through ducks and that gave you the itch to go into counterintelligence? How did you figure that jump out?
No, it's actually kind of neat because of where I work. You have the opportunity to change jobs or change careers and learn something new. And I was tired of HVAC. I kind of ran out of being able to learn anything new. I'd started in residential, owned my own company for a few years, all the way up into commercial and then industrial at the labs. So, I just kind of wasn't stimulating the brain anymore.
No, okay, so what you're saying is that your HVAC background kind of got you into the labs originally doing industrial work because, as most of you or many of you probably know, a national lab is it's a huge outfit, huge operation, thousands and thousands of employees, millions of square footage of office space, et cetera, right? So you went in originally to work on that stuff, and then you migrated into what you're doing now over time.
And I went into what we're doing now.
No, that's cool, because being in Albuquerque, if you don't have a friend that works at the labs, you don't have any friends. Because
that's pretty much the truth.
And so I've heard lots of stories about people that have done just that. It is kind of a cool aspect of that. And so from there, at what point in that progression of whatever that is, like 30 years, you're old.
Yeah, I've been there 23 years. So I am old.
We're about the same age, I think. But
yeah.
Anyway, so at what stage of that whole process did you get interested in things that fly via remote control?
So I actually have been flying fixed wing since I was probably about 16.
That's pretty
On
cool.
and off.
I mean, that's stuff with gas engines where you're probably building it, and when you crash, you're fixing it, that kind of stuff.
Literally, that's what it was. It was a lot of fun. Did a lot of repairing.
Yeah, more repairing than flying, I bet.
Yeah, probably. But when it came to drones was end of 2014, I think, beginning 2015. My first drone, I won.
Yeah, so tell us that story, because that's pretty cool.
I won it as a door prize at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas. It was a Phantom 2 Vision Plus.
Phantom 2 Vision Plus. So did it have a GoPro on it, or did you have to?
No, it had it. That was the very first camera that DJI ever really came out with on the Phantoms.
Okay. I should know that. I don't.
3 weeks later, they came out with the Phantom 3. So, you know,
still free drone.
It was a free drone.
Learn to fly.
And I learned to fly. I still have that, actually. I can't
really?
buy batteries for it anymore. Well, you can, but I don't. It's a Wi-Fi type remote, so you can't really fly it too far away from you anyway. But so yeah, I got that, and then I joined Drone U like a few weeks after that, and I started doing Paul's exercises, and
yeah. So
I've been there ever since.
You have been with us from the very beginning, and so kind of it just culminated real nicely where we were getting started in 2014, and you were getting started with drones. Obviously, you've been flying other stuff. But you'd been getting into drones when we were getting started, which is pretty cool because we've sort of built a relationship over all these years. And it's kind of nice because most people that we interview for this show are not going to be able to sit here next to us like Kevin is, but he lives up the road, so it works out real nice.
Yeah.
But so like years ago, I grew up skiing, right? There's a point to this story. I grew up skiing some of the time I was like 7 or 8 up in Purgatory.
Nice.
Back when I could ski for $25 is how old I am for the entire season.
Right.
It's crazy to think about, but it's true.
It's true.
And then about 15-ish years ago, a friend said, you really need to try snowboarding because he was snowboarding. He taught me. And I literally have never skied since.
Yeah.
I've only snowboarded.
Nice.
Part of that's because I don't go a lot. And so when I go, I want to snowboard and I enjoy it so much. So my question for you along those lines, do you ever fly the old stuff anymore? Or is it pretty much just all the drones now, the quads and so forth?
I don't have any fixed wing. I have one coming.
Oh, you do?
But yeah, I have the only fixed wings that I've actually flown would have been with a survey company where you're flying an EB. So you're really not flying it. It's doing it on its own.
You're more of a VO?
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
With a controller in your hand?
So yeah, it really was, you know. So I do have one coming because I want to kind of get back into it.
Yeah. You mean like the fun part of it?
The fun
like
part
kind
of
of going old school.
Right.
Oh, that's cool.
Kind of just for fun.
That's
it's
really
different than quads or drones in general.
How so?
It's just they operate different. There's no backward. There's
That's true.
you're always going forward. So
That's true.
You don't get to avoid if you.
You got to make a U-turn if you want to.
You know, it's
So you miss it.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, crashing is kind of fun too. But
yeah, it's probably more fun to crash when it's I don't know how much those things cost, a couple hundred.
I mean,
instead of a couple thousand.
Yeah.
Yeah, on average nowadays. Well, that's super cool. And so you kind of got started with drones in 2014, 2015. You started to take off, and no pun intended.
Yep.
I'm probably going to say that stupid thing every show, but you started to take off. You started to learn get involved with Drone U, who, by the way, now employs him. And that's another thing you do is act as an instructor for us, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Because you've learned sort of the Drone U way all along the way.
All along the way.
And is a phenomenal instructor for us. Gets very high marks from his students.
Good.
But at what point in that progression and that journey did you decide, did it go from fun to I want to try to earn some money with this?
No, I think I got the bug of I can do this. There must be a market for it. I can probably make some money at it. And then so I started doing more research and, you know, talking about Drone U and me growing up together. This is pre-107 days.
Yeah, back in the whole 333
so we were
debate
always,
stage.
Yeah, was it a 3? Did you have to have a 333? Did you not? Did you?
Yeah.
You know, everybody's looking for a way to make $1 without getting in trouble.
Yeah, some people didn't care, but yeah, some people thought of it that way.
Right. When,
yeah.
You know, and so it's so that was really an obstacle for me because of where I work, and I don't want to violate any federal rules or laws.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it right. I wanted to do it right.
Yeah. No, that had implications for you that are different than most.
Yeah, probably so.
I mean, Yeah, I mean, there's always the moral, ethical perspective, but there's also a livelihood perspective for you.
Right. And so that was, that was a struggle. But I started doing some real estate and just cold calling some of my friends that are realtors. And I did pretty well there. And my name started getting passed around. Sadly, it got passed around to realtors who thought I should be charging less and not to realtors start to charge more. Until it got passed to, let's see, this would have been 2018. My name got passed to a realtor with the first name of Lisa, who had me shoot the groundbreaking of a property for Topgolf.
I remember, which a couple years ago?
Yeah, it was probably it's actually February 27th, 2018.
Okay, so yeah, wow, that's 3 years ago now.
Yeah, it really is 3 years ago. And from there, I ended up, name got passed over to a company called Jerome Bros, and I did the construction progression for Topgolf.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, my name kept getting passed around.
Yeah, no, it's amazing to see how your journey has sort of grown exponentially. And a lot of you may be aware of sort of that hockey stick perspective.
Right.
Whereby things kind of go like this. It's in nature, right? But things go like this, and then all of a sudden they can take off and go like this. And that seems to have happened to you.
Yeah, right in literally, it was probably July of 2018 when we started going up.
Which is very soon after you got that sort of first big break, if you will,
right.
Topgolf.
Yep.
So let's back up just a little bit. So you started doing real estate. Would you say you started thinking in those terms of trying to earn a dollar, as you said, with your drone? Like, was that already happening and thinking about that in 2015, 2016? Was it pretty early?
So in 2015, I established my business.
Okay. So you're kind of thinking ahead.
Yeah, I was there. And real estate was the quickest way to get my name out.
Yeah. Do you think that's still true?
No.
Okay.
I really don't.
I really didn't know if you'd say yes or no to that. So why not?
I shouldn't say that. Let's break it down to residential real estate. The houses aren't on the market long enough to even have a realtor invest.
That's a great point.
Commercial or even industrial type. I think there's a market there. It's probably saturated a little bit.
Yeah.
But show your stuff and maybe you can grab one of those. And once you get one commercial realtor to start using you, it seems like things go a little more steady. I mean, I wasn't making a profit. I was making enough to keep batteries and flight time, right? Yeah.
And you were having a good time.
And
it was worth it to you to keep going.
Still have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Which
it's
is
just
awesome.
fun. Yeah. So it might be there when the housing market changes.
Yeah, which it will. It's inevitable.
Because in 2015, the housing market, it was a struggle to sell a home.
Yeah.
And so they were really looking to be the one that had drone footage or had, interior videos. And, now it's more 360 tour inside and some stills, right?
Yeah, which is the next level that anybody can learn to do in terms of the modeling, 3D interior, exterior, and then you put it all together. And that's now, of course, kind of the average sort of median level house is probably not going to need that.
No, probably not.
But as that becomes more the norm, then maybe they will, and it becomes easier to do. So there might be more of an opportunity there. But if you were starting out today, like it was 2014, what would you do different?
I would not try to do too many things. I probably was trying to learn 6 or 7 things.
By things, what do you mean?
Like nowadays it'd be mapping, or it'd be 360 tours, or it would be tower inspection, or I'd keep it to 3, maybe.
Really?
Maybe 4. I think the reason that my business started going up was because of the quality is good enough for whoever I'm doing it for, and I think if you get your hands in too many areas, you don't get good at any of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's the adage of it's something along the lines of, this is not the right way to say it, but good at everything, master of nothing.
Right.
Basically.
Right. That's right.
And, some people are able to master maybe 3 or 4. Some people might need to stick to 1. I mean, it really depends on one.
I'm still trying to get to 1. But
master's a big word. Yeah. Master's a big word. And anytime we probably get to the point where we say we've mastered something, man, we probably need to go back to the drawing board and start learning because our head's gotten too big. But
it very well could be, yeah. I mean, I think there's always opportunity to learn. So I think I would have still started in the real estate if it was 2015.
Right. What about a new pilot starting today, based on what you know?
Well, so I'm the odd bird, I think, because...
Well, I didn't want to say. He said it, not me.
That's right. But so my niche is construction safety. That's where I'm really focused. Now I do tower mapping, and also I have a new venture coming up with another pilot that's spraying fields in Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of, that's a term that I bet a lot of people haven't heard, because when you start to say construction, the word people think is going to come out of your mouth is construction progress, but it wasn't progress. It was construction safety. So talk about the difference and how that happened, because you probably didn't go into it knowing you'd be sitting here talking about construction safety.
Right. So construction progress is part of it. So
Sure.
that's the base. Is we're doing I do progressive photos for Topgolf. I also did just a Nader map, basically just real simple, no GCPs, and what the contractors do use it for is for safety briefings to tell people where to park, and there's going to be trenches here, and they can visually see where they're supposed to be parking or where they're supposed to be walking. And also, their safety engineers like to go through the still pictures and find people without their hard hats on or without masks on. And
yeah, that's when OSHA comes looking over their shoulder, right?
We didn't even talk about it, but I've been flying Amazon for a year and 14 months, probably at least 2 or 3 times a week.
That's one of those gigs that I know everybody is, once they hear that, they're going to be so curious about how in the world did you get that on the gig list, and how do I? Well, it's probably not that. It's relationships, right?
It's relationships. It really is just relationships, and trying to provide the best quality you can in service and in photos and video. But I think more the communication portion of it's, the key is.
So in terms of the construction safety, so that was part of what you were doing at Topgolf, even though, again, I don't know, maybe they did explain that to you from the very beginning.
I didn't know it
kind of
originally.
Evolved into that, right?
Right.
But that's also part of what you're probably doing with Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
In a big way.
It is. And that's even a bigger construction safety. There's 1,000 people working at some point. During the steel portion of Amazon, which was about 7 months long, there were 5 300-foot cranes moving all the time. Lots of dirt work. There's 2 Amazons. There's a small local distribution one, and then there's regional. And the regional is 3.7 million square feet.
Wait, both of these are here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
they're
I
right
didn't know
next
that.
door to each other.
Okay.
That's 5-story building. So you could take, what I understand, you can take the 3 largest buildings in Albuquerque, and they would fit inside that building.
Wow, that's incredible. So, but what I'm hearing from this is that that's something that a new pilot, and when I say a new pilot, to get into that kind of a job, you need to have some experience, right? You don't want to go into this kind of thing as your first gig.
Yeah, you don't want to. You really do need to have some experience.
Yeah.
Lots of stick time is really important.
But let's say that's you, and you do have some good stick time, and you've got confidence as a pilot. You have an understanding of the drone and the deliverables at a reasonable level. But going to a large company like this and saying it's more about construction progress, we can help you manage the construction site safety, that's probably something your competitors are not talking about.
No, they're not. And I would suggest anybody that has an interest or has a construction background, go into it. Go into any of those construction trailers and say, here's what I think I can do for you. And you can talk about the progress and the maps and video, and you have them use it for safety, because especially just the basic map is huge for the supers, because they can say, look, this is not here or this is not there, but they also have that progression of when things are being installed. I mean, the supers at Amazon were behind, the steel companies behind on steel, and they could actually go and show them, look, you should be here and you're not. And, so now it's not safety, now it's contractual, right?
Yeah.
So, they really use it a lot.
And that's one of the things I think you have even helped Paul understand is that there are deliverables associated with some of these jobs that you're doing that it evolved, and you've learned that, wow, they need this. And they don't know it. And you're talking about people that are professionals at what they do.
That's true. I think we focus so much on the finished product that maybe there's other finished products, as in construction.
Yeah.
For an example is Top Golf. I did 360 interiors for Top Golf, but it was not for them to do a commercial or use for a commercial. It was so that the people from Top Golf, the supers for the construction company, were all able to Zoom. And then they could do a 360 and say, look, this light is in the wrong place, or they could show architects, hey, on the next one, can we move this beam over, or can we do something different on this sign? So they use it for meetings, but
No, that's amazing.
Make sure things are, and the final punch list, right? So they're doing a final punch list with 360s.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you ever done for, say, an investor or maybe a super that's like for the Amazon job that's in another city at the home base of one of the larger construction companies involved? Have you ever done a live feed for any of them? Just curious.
No. And, I shouldn't. I had the opportunity to live feed for the owner of the Amazon's buildings, because those will be leased to Amazon. And there's a guy with a lot less money now, probably, but...
I don't know the story. What?
Well,
you lost me.
Because but he comes out and actually he was actually with me, wanting me to take certain pictures and the big Amazon's like $350 million or something like that. So
jeez, that's crazy.
That's a lot less money. And
but a lot less money. It's amazing.
But I'm sure he's going to make it back, and so I've had owners or investors request certain things and certain video. The investors wanted video of the interiors of Amazon on the five different floors to see the progress. Again, it's an investment for them. They want to know that things are getting done and how they're getting done, and I've never had the live feed.
You haven't? No. I wonder if that would be something that would be useful to people. I mean, maybe there's no need unless there, say, is something that's really an acute issue and they need to deal with it right away. But then maybe you don't need a drone for that, but maybe you do on some of these bigger...
I did one live feed in Miami, Florida for a famous artist, Judy Chicago. She'd done a smoke feature with pyro, and they wanted that live feed. That was the only time I've ever done a live feed.
Interesting. But you went out there knowing you'd be doing that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's part of the plan.
That's what I was hired. Yeah, we had one. I actually hired a Drone U member.
Did you?
Cool. To fly the live feed because it was almost pretty much stationary because of the amount of pyro going off. While I was shooting the video and.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So one of the things I'm hearing, and I'm sure you all are hearing as well, kind of laced throughout this, and we can even go back and talk about your HVAC days. So you've been an entrepreneur, even though you've been working effectively, well, it's really not the government, but you've been working for the national labs for a long time now. But you've been an entrepreneur. You understand the people element of it.
Yes.
So I don't know, just
I
talk
think
about
so.
that and how important that is, that it's probably more important than being a great pilot.
Definitely. I believe that is the most important. So I think being humble in a lot of situations is good.
Yeah.
You still have to sell yourself, so okay.
Yeah.
That's a tough line.
It is.
But just your general actions is a good way of showing being humble, I think.
Absolutely.
Communication is a great way of building relationships. I don't advertise my business. It's all by word of mouth.
Yeah.
I've never had to.
One of the things that I think that you've done so well is you kind of have, and part of this is because as I've seen you over the last now 6-7 years, which is crazy to think about.
I know.
I see you just sort of doing life, and you find things that you enjoy, like the whole lighting thing that you do, right?
Right.
And you meet people
And I do.
and they ask questions.
Yeah.
And I mean, this isn't going to be everybody's paradigm, but if you can make it your paradigm, I think the path forward is just going to be that much easier. And that paradigm that I'm speaking to is it's doing things that you enjoy that lend themselves to the things that you want to do for a living. And then throughout that process, you're meeting people, you're building relationships, you're talking about what you do. Then you get the opportunity to tell them how what you do could help them maybe, and just kind of builds from there.
It really does. It's interesting how that works.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to oversimplify it, but I mean, I think that's basically what I hear. And, kind of talking to you over the years, I've seen it with you.
Well, you've seen it.
I've seen it.
It really is I think I'm very fortunate that I've had a couple hobbies turn into business.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And even though I went to heating and air conditioning school right out of high school and it served me well, it got me to where I am now.
Yeah.
I would credit the growth of my drone company to the ability to talk to people who are uncomfortable because they're either hot or cold. They tend to be more irritable, so
Yeah.
it's a great opportunity to show a little humility and I think that technique of speaking with people has benefited me now.
I can totally see that. And that's a good point. I had not thought about that, but that was a great training ground. But I mean, all of us, maybe not to that degree where it's so definitive in terms of training for dealing with people moving forward. That's such a great example. But for example, I was an auditor, right? And I did that for 8 years prior to doing my last career, and which led to this career of Drone U. So I audited for 8 years, and nobody wanted me coming into their office. Nobody was ever happy to see me.
Right.
Like ever.
No. Why would they, right?
Why would they be? And so I learned during that process to make the most of it and to try to make people's lives better. And as I think about it, I wasn't thinking necessarily in those terms. I was just thinking, okay, how do I make my life better?
Well, that's
and
right.
by making their life better.
To make your life better.
And everybody wins.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a value if you have that in your personality, which I feel like you do. I mean, I've known you long enough.
Well, thank you.
And I think that benefits. Doesn't mean it can't be done a different way. It just...
True. Yeah. I guess the point, though, is that I think we all probably, and to varying degrees, but we can all look back and maybe kind of assess what have we learned from the things we've done prior. I bet there's more there that would lend themselves to helping you take your drone business to another level.
Yes, I think you're right. I mean, I think you're right. It really is about selling yourself in a way that is humble, but also you can show your skills or you can show your interest in them. That's the whole thing with construction and safety is literally that you're showing empathy for the construction company. They don't want anybody being hurt.
Right.
They don't. And so I have found that if you show empathy, right? If you put yourself in their shoes, they tend to be, I mean, they tend to be more open for work. And an example is Amazon, which my original contract was 1 day a month.
Wow, that's how it started.
That's how it started in March of 2020, right as COVID hit. And after my first deliverable, they hired me to once a week. And then a month after that, they hired me for twice a week. And it's been that way until this last week because the construction's coming to a close.
So how did that come about, though? So was that you saying to the managers, look, I could do this for you as well, or they were...
So they didn't really know what they want or don't want sometimes.
Yeah.
This is also done through Drone Bros. So they have a pretty good business model where this is what only thing we're going to provide. Kind of like, like In-N-Out Burger. There's like 5 things you can pick and that's it, right?
Yeah.
And well,
yeah, I'm hungry.
Yeah, unless you go animal style, right? And
right.
But what I was doing is showing them they were using this information in their safety meetings. We were talking about it. I always check in with a super. Most of them will say, you don't need to. We know you're here. On Amazon, I just go whenever I want. But I always send a super two shots off the drone that I've been there, right?
Yeah.
Not edited. It's just 2 shots.
Yeah.
He's going to get his edited stuff later. And the more I did that, the more... So he started sending it to the owner. He started sending it to the investors. And more and more. Then the investor like, hey, can you have him do these shots? And can we do this twice a week? Because we want to see what's going on and how it's happening. And then I got the second Amazon started. So I'm doing that once every 2 weeks. And that immediately moved to once a week. So...
Wow.
And then interiors. So...
That's amazing. So the one that... The point at which you say you were sending the super 2 shots to show you were there. Is that something they asked for or something that you just did so they knew you were there?
When I first shot it, when there was tumbleweeds being pushed by a grader, he asked because he wanted to let the investor know that they had started work.
Gotcha.
And I have done it ever since. I can show you the text message that's 1.5 years long.
But that's you taking initiative because what you could have done is said, he asked for these, I gave it to him. Now I'm just going to do my other job that they've hired me for. But you didn't stop there.
No.
You went another level and said, this is a great thing.
Right.
I'm going to let him know I'm here. He's going to like it, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it just builds that relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's,
yeah.
I mean, I went from once a month to like this Sunday, I'll fly 3 different contracts out there.
Yeah, no, it's so cool. And so, I mean, I think the point there is that you're just always look for relatively simple things that might be available to you to add value to the client you're serving.
Right.
That, again, they don't even know would be important to them. And that was no big deal, no skin off your back to text him a couple
doing
pictures.
The shots.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't creating more work.
Right.
Well, 5 seconds to send a text, but
that's not more work.
Not really. Not when the outcome. Not when the outcome is.
Yeah.
I got more contract.
Exactly.
Right.
No, that's exactly right. So I do want to switch gears just a little bit, sort of in the same vein, and talk about how it's been managing working full time in a professional job that you have at the National Labs and keeping this business going. I don't know. I mean, we could talk about that alone for a couple hours. So maybe give us a couple of points that you see as what's been the most important element of being able to make that work.
So I'm going to have to give credit to my lovely bride of 25 years. Because
she is pretty awesome. I've met her. And so, yeah, we both outkick the coverage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should just speak for myself.
Yeah.
I definitely outkick the coverage.
I don't, yeah.
Anyways.
There's no doubt about it.
You've got a great wife. So she's been a help to you.
She's always, she's supporting. Yeah. And because of that, she would, business-wise, I only did what time would allow. Because when I started this business, I had a junior in high school and another daughter.
Yeah.
In middle school.
And you're a family man. I mean, that's very important to you.
My family is the most important to me. And so between running around, there's always extracurricular things happening, and
You guys know.
yeah, and so it was never a struggle because my drone business, because I had my career, I didn't have to make sure that the drone business was making money to live, to make a living, right?
Yeah.
But I wanted it established. My business plan was originally 5 years, which I made, which was to have one established where, like my old heating and air company, I didn't have to really hunt. I don't have to advertise, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not necessarily. I mean, but I'm old, right? I can retire in 6 years. And so on a 10-year plan, if I keep my drone business steady for the next 6 years, there's no reason I couldn't just go full time on that.
Sure. And you're building a rapport with all these clients, and a lot of these things are repeat business or potentially could be. I mean, for example, if you're working for a contractor who's building stuff, that's a form of recurring business potentially.
It really is. That, in fact, the contractor that built Topgolf is also going to be building Carvana vending machine here in Albuquerque.
I did not know that Albuquerque was getting that.
Yep, and it's right across the street from Topgolf, right across the freeway. And so there's a possibility that I'll pick that one up.
Yeah. Yeah. So on that note, will you be proactive and try to go after whoever is in charge of that? And
I've already made those contacts.
Okay, there you go. So you can't sit back and wait.
No, you don't. You just hope you get them, and if you can have a verbal conversation, with the super or project manager. Project manager is the key, also, especially on large builds.
Well, in the construction progress, and now I guess we'll call it construction safety realm, what about this idea that a lot of the larger construction companies are building their own drone teams? Are you seeing that, or do you see that as a debilitating thing to what you're trying to do, or not?
I have not seen it.
Okay.
And the two large companies that I've done work for do not have their own.
And they're pretty big companies. I mean, if they're doing Amazon, they're huge.
Yeah, they're national. I mean, I could name them, but they're big.
Yeah. All right. That actually surprises me a little bit, but it's great. I mean, I think that, I don't know, part of the reason for this show too is dispel myths, right? And I think you're dispelling a lot of myths that I think people have, that is, there's no opportunity in that because the construction companies just send out their own pilots. Well, that's not necessarily true.
It's not necessarily true. And in fact, we'll go into a little more on that. The dirt moving company that move the dirt for both Amazon sites, that's local here, have their own drone pilot that does RTK once a week to add to the survey. Yeah. Right? But I reached out to them, and because he was on site, so I went and introduced myself. So my suggestion is, if you have someone in the community that flies a drone that's 107, reach out to them and don't look at them as competition, because every drone pilot I know in New Mexico has sent me a job.
Yeah. I am so glad you brought that up, because I probably would have forgotten. And I think that comes, so now we're going to philosophize.
Right. There you go.
But it really is having that attitude, that mindset of plenty, right? There is plenty. And I don't want to get too touchy-feely here, but man, when we help each other and we don't worry so much about self-preservation that we discard everybody else and their needs, good things happen for everybody.
You're right. And what's nice is I've actually had to turn down some work that I've sent to those pilots who had sent me work. Yeah. And so it's not, if in the grand scheme of things, I work in a state and a city with one of the best drone pilots there is, right? And in Paul.
Sure.
That I've never competed against him. Yeah. Never had to. We've never even had the same niche.
Right.
So
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
I mean,
that's a great point.
don't think that everybody's doing it the same thing you're doing.
Yeah. Well, in fact, we typically, because we get a lot of leads through Drone U, as you can imagine. And if something comes through for Albuquerque, we just call
Yeah,
Kevin.
you guys usually send,
We usually send it
me.
to Kevin.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I'll say, hey, Paul, do you want to do this?
Right.
And if he doesn't or can't or he's out of town or whatever, he always says, no, I'll give it to Kevin. So
There you go.
it works. And by the way, that goes back to building relationships. Sorry to get so excited, but that goes back to the fact that you took the time, made the effort to build a relationship with us. And it's been fantastic. And now you're a friend, and it's cool. Man, it just works.
Another drone pilot at Amazon, who is the survey company. When I say they survey every steel beam, everything. They're going in.
Are they using LiDAR or what are they doing?
Ground survey, and then they're using LiDAR. Well, so that's where the EB came in, right? Mm-hmm. So the fun story. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
The most odd one.
We like odd, fun stories.
So I have airspace for the airport, which is also on Kirtland Air Force Base.
So a while back, you went and got your
Your
wide area authorizations.
My wide area authorization. And the drone pilot for this survey company did not have it. And so they have permission to fly on Kirtland on the Air Force Base, but they could not use a DJI, so they were using the EB.
Okay.
I had the authorization, so they wanted to pay me for authorization. And so we went out and we flew, surveyed with the EB, 40 millimeter grenade practice range.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the point of that? Just out of curiosity.
I think they're making it they're changing it to another type of firing range from the 40 millimeter grenade launch range.
I want to do that.
It is cool.
I want to go launch some grenades.
It's pretty neat. So I never thought in the world I'd be sitting on an Air Force base
Yeah.
in airspace watching a fixed wing fly and
Mapping something like that.
in my whole life. I never thought that. That's kind of
cool.
neat.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's just you being willing to, because I could also see some people that could say, yeah, no, I'm not going to give you my authorization. I'll just do the job, or I'll try to get the job for myself.
Yeah.
Which you probably could have tried to do. I mean, you've got a pretty good mapper here at Drone U that would have helped you.
Oh, yeah.
But you didn't, I'm saying that tongue in cheek.
Right.
You didn't go that route. You thought, no, this is an opportunity to forge another relationship. Let's do it.
And it's true. And here's what I've learned from these relationships is if you need something, they're almost always willing to help.
Yeah.
There is a lot of people have heard one's like none, right? So I lost 2 Phantoms in 1 week. One wasn't.
I shouldn't laugh at that. I'm laughing.
One is an ES.
You can laugh looking back.
It's
but go ahead.
true. I mean, there's 2 types of pilots, right? That's what we always talk about in training. The ones who have crash and ones that will.
That's right. Exactly.
Both of these were errors on the Phantom. One lost an ESC and the other one lost a power bank or a power board. But I had all these jobs. I only had 1 Phantom left. At the time I had 3 in my inventory, and most people have 2.
Yeah, if that.
Then my camera gimbal started messing up on my 3rd Phantom.
Oh no.
But I'd met all these drone pilots on site, and I ordered a new Phantom to get here as soon as I could, but it's not overnight because of batteries and stuff.
Sure.
But they loaned me their Phantom 4. I'm sure if I had called you guys, you'd have been like, yeah, I can borrow it.
Of course.
He was just happened to be on site and he let me finish my job that day.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean the adage, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's not just a saying. I mean, that's
right. And I didn't even
life
ask
principle.
him. He actually walked up and
could see you were having an issue.
yeah,
That's
he could
cool.
see he was having an issue. Yeah.
I love that. Love
Yeah, so it's
love when
good.
that happens. I don't know, makes everything better.
That's all that communication again. It benefits you, I think.
It does. Yeah, it does. Don't be afraid to reach out to people, touch base, and
Sure.
I don't know, get to know about their families, whatever. I mean, yeah. So
Yeah.
another thing I wanted to ask you, maybe briefly, have you talk a little bit about is pricing, because I know that's one of the biggest questions people have. And I'm sorry, we're not going to get into detailed pricing on this particular show. Maybe at some point we will. Maybe even have you back for a pricing show.
Maybe.
But talk a little bit about just how you've gone about that. And because I just know it's one of the biggest struggles of drone service providers out there.
It is a struggle. I would say there's many approaches to pricing. In fact, we had talked about one of the approaches from a company that asked me to charge them per gig, basically.
Yeah,
right?
we talked about that.
Instead of per job. It's what your market is and how much effort you have to put in my opinion. I would say nationally, if you're somewhere between $75 and $100 an hour.
Okay.
If you want to think about it and that's for general work.
Like
especially
videography.
Construction stills, maybe.
Okay.
Some maps, but not like 3D type. Just general, like safety construction stuff. Somewhere around there. Okay. Now, when you get a job where they're paying you're flying 4 times a week, and each one of those times is a contract, I would say the price might go down a little bit. But you're also flying 4 times a week for, and 16
steady.
months,
and
18
it's a contract.
months, and it's a contract.
Contractual, yeah.
Yeah, so at that point, it's always been, this is where people struggle. Do I take less because I have consistently flown every week at least 6 to 8 hours every week.
For money. Yeah, this is on top of your practice time.
Right. On top of that.
Yeah.
Literally for money. But also, I don't do any of the production. So I am literally a pilot with a camera that meets the needs, and then Drone Bros does their own production. The tower companies, they do their own stitching.
Yeah.
I just have to provide what they need.
So in those cases, the pricing is sort of established for you.
It really is.
Right.
I mean, you either take it or leave it, and if you feel like if it's good for you, take it.
Right. But at the same time, if you do a really good job for somebody like those companies, and they've worked with you for a year or two, I would imagine potentially they'd be willing to negotiate with you.
Oh yeah.
Any company that's worth their weight and has a long-term perspective is going to be willing to do that with somebody that's really good to them and good for them.
Yes, they do. And in fact, they negotiate in the middle of the contract.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but in terms of jobs that you've gotten on your own, do you feel like number one, this is something that we go back and forth on the Astro and You podcast, and just in general conversations with students and so forth, is whether or not you should give something away free to kind of get the ball rolling. Did you ever have to do that? Do you recommend doing that from your perspective?
So I believe in it.
Okay.
It worked for me.
Okay, cool.
I didn't give a lot away. I gave one session to one realtor. And then I had other realtors calling me from that one realtor.
Wanting it free? Or no?
Wanting how much I'd charge.
Okay.
And, and they would, it's kind of a common story in the world of drone photos and real estate, is I would give them a price, and it based off of square footage or what they want. I have a price list. So,
yeah,
this is this square footage. I'm going to do it for this price. If you want interiors, it's going to be this much addition.
Do you still have that? And is it current? Would you mind sharing that with everybody?
I'd probably do that. Yeah.
If you don't see it, we talked after the show and decided it wasn't a good idea. But if you don't mind.
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you about pricing. There's going to be just as many people who think you're underselling them as there are people who think, man, I could work for that amount of money.
That's true. Yeah, it really is about perspective. And there's obviously a range that the market can support.
Right.
And go ahead.
And it's true. And because I've done this now for 6 years, right? And it literally, like I said, that kind of hourly rate is
So is that kind of how you look at it at this point? Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's how I really look at it. Now, I don't, even in my personal things, I don't do production. I hire it out.
Right.
So I increase my job. So I'm, how is the right way to say that? I'm paying myself less, but I'm not doing all the work.
Right. But it's, you're leveraging the skills and abilities and efficiencies of other people who do something well that you could potentially learn and potentially do well, but maybe not too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a creative. I'm creative in flying, maybe, but not creative on. And you know, I tried. I did it. I bought Photoshop. I bought all the, all the Adobe suite. I found I was spending 10 hours, and I'm still not happy with the video that I'm making. And I can pay someone to do it, and I think the example was I'm really paying myself $7.50 to make a crappy video.
Right.
So
why not pay somebody else?
Why not pay somebody else to do it?
There's a book, and I mentioned it to you when you were here, Kevin. It's something I'm about halfway through, but already the concepts. I wouldn't say that the concepts are revolutionary, but it really drives it home in such a solid, no-brainer. How are we not doing this more? How am I not doing this more way? So a plug for the book called Who, Not How. It's really great. And I pretty much guarantee that after reading that book or listening to that book, whatever you fancy, you're going to have that perspective, and you're not going to buy Photoshop in the first place. Right.
Yeah, that was a waste of money for me.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
There are some people who are very good at doing all of that.
I would say they're few and far between.
Yeah. That's that phrase, a jack of all trades, master of none, right?
There it is. Yeah.
And
absolutely. And particularly when we've got families and we've got other jobs and we've got hobbies that can take a lot of time depending on the time of year. Ergo your hobbies.
Right.
There's only so much you can do.
There really is. And you have to ask yourself, what are you paying yourself per hour?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you paying yourself to do well and not do well?
Right.
And
absolutely. I want to clarify one thing really quick before we move on. We probably should start wrapping things up. But in terms of the way that you think about pricing jobs, and you've said that your paradigm, you sort of evolved into thinking of it in terms of hourly, and basically probably that's how you would charge somebody generally if it fits at all. Are you charging them for things like travel time, editing time, or how do you build in? You're not editing. You've told us that.
No, but I charge for that editing.
Okay.
So I built some good relationships with my photo editor and with my video production people. Relationships that have grown. They don't even live in this country.
Yeah.
But
where did you find those people?
I found them on Fiverr.
Yeah.
Like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And eventually we just started working together. And here's how communication, relationships with production works to your benefit. When COVID first came out, I was hired by a company to video and still do aerial photos of COVID test facilities here in Albuquerque. And my video production person lives in Belize.
Cool.
Right?
Good for them.
But about 12 hours difference in time.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to film this, but I have a deliverable by noon my time tomorrow. So he stayed up until 3. I uploaded my video. He produced it, had it ready for me the next morning.
It's huge. And that is really important.
Yeah, it is. Because I had a deliverable.
Yeah.
And before I accepted the job, I talked to him. I said, can you do this for me? And what are you going to charge me? And it was real reasonable. And
at that point, you could trust him because you knew him.
I know him.
Yeah.
And he's not, we don't do anything through Fiverr anymore. We do it through email.
Right. And through PayPal or however you pay him now. Yeah. No, I think that's so important. And here at Drone U, we've done, some of our most important people on our team, that's probably up to about 20, 25 people total now, are very similar. and there are people that are there overseas, and they have been with us for years. And there's some amazing people around the world in this world economy that can be just what Kevin's describing for you. Actually, on that note, in the business class available to members, there's a whole section that Tim taught on the process of hiring somebody remotely. So it's just part of membership and part of the business class. You really need to go check that out, because Tim's been doing that, and we at Drone U and previous businesses we've had together, we've been working with folks like this for probably 15 years, maybe more. And so he's really refined the process of how to find them, and screen and do some of those things, and how to write the appropriate style of ad to get the right people in the first place. So anyways, you might want to check that out if you haven't already. It's a valuable resource.
It is good
to members of Drone U. But so I heard, I'm going to end with this.
All right.
I could just keep talking to you. It's really great, and I'm sure people are going to have questions. So maybe we'll have you on again sometime.
Answer 'em, right?
Yeah, maybe we'll just answer them. Yeah, that's right. I heard a rumor.
Uh-oh. It's probably not true.
No, it probably is true. I heard a rumor that you bought yourself a beautiful new truck.
I did.
With profits from your drone work.
So I have my very first business vehicle. Yep. I bought a new truck. Some of the people know that I had a very small vehicle. Mm-hmm. I was driving a Kia Sportage.
Yeah.
And I can fit all of my drone gear in there with the back seat down. But it got me to where I am now.
Yeah.
I give credit to Drone U for, keeping the information viable, which is key. Remember, I started when there was no 107.
Yeah.
So just all that information, everything that has changed so much, all the FAA rules, insurance. Insurance is almost impossible to get for drone coverage when I started.
Right.
And it was very expensive, thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So, I was actually able to buy my 2020 Ford Ranger, and
it's awesome.
Accessorized it so that it's safe for equipment. And
are you gonna? I've been seeing the ads for them. I really want one of these. I don't have. Well, I do have a truck, but it's not for work or anything. The tail. I mean not tailgate. The bed systems that you can get with drawers and stuff that lock up.
I thought about going that way, but instead I went with a hard tonneau cover.
Okay.
It just wasn't going to. I couldn't hide the stuff in the bed with the drawers. I did look at that because some of the things inexpensive, but if you get into the construction or safety world, you really need to have first aid kits, multiple safety vests, multiple hard hats, multiple boots.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And so I haul that. I've had the safety guys at these sites check to see if I had all my safety gear.
No kidding.
Yeah. Because that's their job. They're the safety engineers, right?
Yeah.
So
it's true. Wow.
So Craftsman tubs are the best.
Okay.
They stack, and I slide them all in there, and I slide my generator in there. I do not use I don't use a Colorado charger or any of those type of things. I run a generator.
Smart. What generator do you prefer?
I like the knockoff of the
from
Honda,
Harbor Freight.
From Harbor Freight.
Yeah, me too. It's good stuff. Actually.
I can charge 4 Phantom batteries at one time. We've done more than that in training.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, absolutely.
Off of that one generator, it's quiet. You don't have to yell over it.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Some people carry their golf clubs in the back of their truck. But
do not carry golf clubs.
Kevin carries his drones and related equipment because you never know when that call is going to come to go do a job.
Well, and right now I'm involved with 74 cell towers between 2 towns.
We didn't even really get into that.
And we didn't get into that. But so I try to hit one if the weather's good every day.
Oh, gosh.
Especially in Albuquerque.
I know people are going to want to hear about that stuff. So we'll do another show.
All right.
We'll down the road before too long. Yeah, let's close it out. So let me do this. Final words, advice, encouragement to everybody out there who's trying to get where you're at.
Stick with it. Just don't give up. really, be humble. When you can get a backup drone, get it. Because if you're one, you're none, literally. And take your time. Is it nice to have working capital to start your business? Probably. I didn't have that. I mean, I had my own wallet,
Sure.
but invest as you go.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Put money back into your business.
Put it all back into your business. And I still do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, and one thing that I never actually asked you was your favorite drones, but it's basically the Phantom 4
Phantom
V2
4.
is what you fly most of the time. It's just so versatile and does everything you need.
I have Inspires. I have some of the original Mavics, which I use to fly inside.
Yeah.
Because they have nice cages. They have actual cages, not just prop guards.
Yeah.
In construction, there's always strings or wires hanging down, and they work.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of that for inside. But the Phantom 4 is my workhorse. It always has been. It's reliable. It does well in the wind.
Solid.
Solid. It has dual IMUs, so when the Raven hits you, it doesn't fall out of the air. It recovers itself.
That's a story for
That's
another
a different
day.
story, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, so
Yeah.
Phantom 4 is my workhorse.
I think the way you said that word's perfect, workhorse. And there's no arguing that point. But well, I cannot thank you enough for joining me on
Thank
this
you for having me.
inaugural show. Yeah, it was fun having you. And we'll do it again. We would, of course, love to hear from you. If you have questions for Kevin, let us know in the show notes or on YouTube, wherever you're watching this, and we'll try to have Kevin answer them.
Sure.
And then subscribe. We would love that. That's one of the best ways you can help us get this rolling. And then tell us what you think. Give us a review. We appreciate all the reviews and all your thoughts. And why didn't you ask this? And man, we'd really love him to talk about this. Those are the kind of things that we want to hear from you, because we want to make this, just like Astro New, we want to make this show all about you.
Right.
Thank you very much for joining us. For Kevin, thank you. Rob, have a great day.